Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from I Cut Waffles from the Relationship Advice subreddit. And it says, my brother, 18, has been poisoning my girlfriend, 24, for the past 3 years. It starts off. She's always been allergic to lactose very severely, to the point where if she had any traces in her food, she would basically shit herself on the spot ever since she was a kid. My brother and I have always been on good terms and always hanged out together until 3 years ago, when I met my girlfriend. He started getting more distant and mean towards me, talking about how she's ruining our broship and taking me away from our family and him. I told him he was crazy and didn't think too much of it until recently. Going back to 3 years ago when I introduced Katie to my parents, he was livid. I moved out about 6 months later because I was tired of his constant bitching about her coming over to sleep and hang out. Ever since then, we would have family dinners at my parents' every month on Sundays. My family is Italian, so we eat a lot of pasta and sauce. Relevant. My parents always made 2 separate meals ever since they met her. One with no milk and lactose-free milk for Katie, and one for the rest of us. She never had issues unless there was an accidental cross-contamination, which happened every so often. The problem was, every month at those dinners she was getting sick to the point of rushing to the bathroom and having excruciating diarrhea for an hour with severe cramps. Every single time. At one point I started refusing to go and my parents kept insisting, so I gave it another try. It was fine for a few months and then it started again. This goes on and off for 2.5 years. I got really mad last week and got up in the middle of dinner and said to my parents, something is up and someone is messing with Katie's food. My parents go quiet and ask me why I would say that. My brother turns rather pale and stops smiling. I knew it was him. I confronted him and he started crying, saying he felt like he had to get payback at her for stealing away his big brother, that it wasn't fair. He said he was adding milk to the batch made for her and he had no regrets. I was absolutely livid. Katie as well. She excused herself and asked me to drive her back to our place. It's been 3 months and she cut contact with my parents. Katie refuses to talk to them anymore because they should have had my brother in check and given him a worse punishment. He literally got a talk, a smack behind the head, and that was it. And said she can't believe I didn't stop talking to them as well. My parents, on the other hand, are mad that we let this little incident break our relationships. My girlfriend says if I keep contacting them and insisting she forgives my brother, she's going to leave me. I love this girl to death. We've got plans to buy a house eventually and have kids. On the other hand, I love my parents too, but I can't have both anymore. What should I do? Absolutely no, she's totally right to be cutting contact with them and the family who's just downplaying this kind of behavior, causing her severe pain and distress. And the reason? Because he was jealous and them just playing it down like almost like, oh, that little tyke, what's he doing now kind of thing. That is incredibly dangerous behavior. And I would say anyone who's minimizing years of intentional poisoning as a little incident isn't safe to be around either. But Sofa King Great says your brother is an evil, selfish, petty little fuck and you should distance yourself from him until he grows the fuck up. You didn't ruin your broship with him. He did. Bang Bang says right. I'd point out to the brother exactly how his actions have ruined their broship and how because of his actions their relationship will never be the same. Even if he does choose to forgive him and continue having a relationship, the trust is obliterated. And I would make sure to point out to him that it is a big if in regards to continuing the relationship. Sunflower says in quotes, my girlfriend says, if I keep contacting them and insisting she forgives my brother, she's going to leave me. And says, I don't blame her. Why would she want to forgive or speak to people who would sweep your brother's horrible behavior under the rug? Your parents had to know he was doing it. That's why they asked you why you thought that instead of immediately denying it. She has a choice. Either she stays away from them entirely or she bounces. So OP came in with their update and said, I've read over 200 comments from you guys, and and it just validated my mind that my family is fucked up. I contacted my mum and confronted her about why she would defend my idiotic brother, and she basically said he was young and stupid. I told her a few of your comments and that Katie could press charges, and she broke down crying, saying he won't do it again. Hell no he won't, because I told her I decided to cut them off for good. Katie was actually relieved when I told her that I was on her side and cut them off. Basically told me she was going to dump me for being an idiot who couldn't support his girlfriend of 3 years, when she was basically being tortured for fun. I'm just glad she didn't, and that we're getting through this together. Thank you guys for every comment, even the ones calling me out for being an idiot, trying to make Katie forgive my brother for the horrible things he did. When you're faced with this kind of dilemma, and you've been close to your family for over 20 years, you get blindsided. So me and Katie cut them out starting today, and we plan to move to the USA next year. We always wanted to live there, and finally be away from them. The top commenter on this one said, a happy ending was never in the works, but you managed to find the best possible outcome. Your brother is really fucked. Your brother really fucked you, your girl, and your family over. Your parents' position is ridiculous. I could understand maybe being forgiven if he had done this once at 15, but he's been doing it for fucking years. He's seen the results of how sick she got. He did it most recently at 18. That's an adult. Fuck him. I'm glad you're able to come to this conclusion before your relationship ended over it. I think you made the right call. Opie says, the comments really hit me hard. Sometimes seeing it from someone else's perspective really opened your eyes. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. This one's from Lemony, and it comes with an update that's 7 years later. It's titled, I, 22 female, have been with my boyfriend, 23 male, for 2.5 years. And I'm unsure if my views on monogamy will ever perfectly align with his. This has been weighing on me for a very long time. For about the entire duration of my 2.5 year long relationship, and I've never talked to anyone about this. I found out my boyfriend had been cheating maybe 6 months prior into our relationship. What ensued for about the next 1.5 years was an endless cycle of him cheating and then displaying a dramatic gesture of guilt and promising he'll change. This made my last year of college quite miserable. It seemed like once a month my roommates would drunkenly sit me down on a Saturday night and tell me they saw him doing insert any promiscuous activity with someone. Needless to say, it was humiliating. I spent late nights taking care of him while he was incomprehensibly drunk. He would lash out at me and then apologize and repeat. This sounds like a case closed, right? All of this breaking and mending of trust truly broke me. I started picking fights and being an overall angry and irrational person towards him. I resented him more than I have resented anyone in my life. The problem is, I also loved him deeply. I know this is a played out and really dumb justification for being in an unhealthy relationship, but the good times were really good. We have a lot of fun together, and he always had assured me that he loves me, so I kept going back. Still, should be case closed, right? The last day of college, he was moving out. He did that familiar thing that is dramatically displaying his love for me and telling me that things were going to be different. At this point, I feel so broken that it doesn't even matter if he keeps cheating. It's normal now. I get hurt, I try to forgive, and I resent. It's familiar and comfortable, and the thought of breaking up still puts rotten feelings in my stomach. Since that last day, he started to actually change. He explained that he doesn't believe in monogamous relationships and often lashed out as a result of feeling forced into one. His destructive and inflammatory behavior stopped. He's living healthier, and he seems overall happier. So I took a crack at an open relationship. Basically, I went on 2 Tinder dates, hooked up on one of them but didn't really enjoy myself. I feel so much more happy and at ease being romantically involved with someone with whom I have a deep connection than just acting on physical connection. Not only did I find it particularly exhausting, but it didn't feel like I was doing it for the right reasons. It only felt like I was trying to get back at my boyfriend. After all the push and pull and manipulation, I can't shake the resentment I have towards him. I really do want to try to completely forgive and stay in his life. However, it seems the only way that can happen as if I am content with an open relationship. And I still can't tell if I am or not. Maybe it's just too soon and the wounds haven't healed, you know? I'm confused because he openly tells me about any hooking up that he does. He recently kissed a good friend of his, which is what prompted this post. And I'm not sure if what I feel is jealousy in that present moment, or if it sends my emotions back to the really bad paranoia-filled days when I was never told the truth. It could be a little of both, but either way, it doesn't feel great. But also not necessarily terrible. I'll be honest, it feels a lot better now that he doesn't hide any of it from me. I know that the healthiest thing to do here is just to break it off. There's been too much broken trust and too much negativity for this to mend itself. But I'm sure many of you know it's not that easy. We care about each other deeply. We enjoy each other's company and pretty much never stop smiling and laughing when we're together. And I feel like now, since we're both trying to focus on happiness and positivity, things could get better quickly. If only I could make up my mind on how I feel about this. And at this point, it feels impossible to break up unless I have some eternal sunshine of the spotless mind-like mechanism. I care very much about this person, and I feel like I'd do anything to make it work. Also, I'm aware that I've been pretty foolish up to this point. I can't seem to justify to myself or anyone else my desire to stay in the relationship, and I also can't bring myself to leave. Perhaps I put too much faith into one person. I'm hoping that feedback on this will bring me more clarity. Whether that's telling me I'm an idiot and should leave immediately, or that things are looking up and it will work out in time. I welcome and appreciate it. What would you make out of all of this? What would you do? Do I just lack all self-respect, or is there anything potentially redeeming about my excessive hope and undeserved trust? The top commenter said to OP, nobody here can make you break up with him. If he's been treating you like that for years and you keep taking it, I don't think anything anyone says will make a difference. I will say, I think what you're doing is what most people in your situation are doing, and it's like an extreme form of procrastination. You don't want to deal with what seems like a huge problem. The breakup, sadness, parting ways, starting over. So instead, you're putting it off and ignoring it, knowing on some level you're making an even bigger unfixable problem for yourself. A serial cheating boyfriend, constant embarrassment from friends and family, a lifetime of unhappiness. So deal with the breakup now, or deal with everything else. I don't know. The break is immediate great pain now, but definitely better than the life you're setting yourself up for. Opie says, I know you're right. Actually doing it sounds like such a big hurdle, and I'll probably fight with myself about it some more. But I know with full clarity that you are right. I totally agree with that comment. They said like procrastination, and in some ways for me, I put it into normalization. You settled into this, you think this is your normal, and it's hard to see past it. Like picture things in my mind as like a gray mist all the way around you. You can't see past it, you can't see what the future is, and it's difficult to take that leap out through the mist because you don't know what's on the other side, and it's scary. But you should tell yourself you deserve a whole lot better than what you got right now. I mean, that is rock bottom, isn't it? But a commenter says, I mean, he just doesn't sound like the guy for you, or many others who want stability in a relationship. But anywho, he sounds extremely selfish and self-serving. This relationship does not sound fulfilling to you at all. Try to picture what your best future relationship could look like with person X, somebody you don't yet know. In this hypothetical relationship, I don't think you'll be feeling the negative emotions you're feeling now. That's not what you aspire to or what you need. You're a loyal person, but your loyalty is misplaced in your current relationship. Find somebody who really values and appreciates it, not just to their own selfish ends, and honors you. You're also at the right age to learn that your feelings such as love and self-sacrifice are not always enough to sustain a relationship. Sometimes relationships don't work out, but you can move on to a better one. Stop treating him like some kind of addiction that you need, but is actually bad for you, and trust yourself to move on, and that the future will be better. Opie says this is the most constructive and helpful thing I've read so far, so thank you. I understand that I'm far from where I need to be. I've handled breakups in the past fairly well, even one longer than this one. I've just never felt paralysis and hopefulness on this scale before. I know he's treated me like garbage, and I know what I should do. But this whole situation honestly has clouded my judgment so densely that I make 1.5 million excuses to stay, which is clearly evident in my original post. That's what I get for never letting these thoughts leave my own head until now. God, this is fucked up. In any case, this made me feel 0.5% more confident, and I appreciate it. So OP came into the post 7 years later and says, trying this again since I broke a post rule the first time, and here was the original post. Not that I tried very hard to find it before now, but curiosity got the best of me after recalling a bunch of well-meaning strangers basically responding, "What the fuck?" The feeling of shame was visceral. I fully understood I was in an effed up relationship, but couldn't find the courage or self-respect to leave. It was this immense dissonance that I can't describe to this day. I have a hard time talking about it in therapy still. It was just surreal and painful reading it. There was a few very compassionate yet stern comments which I'm grateful for in retrospect. Anyway, I, 29 female, am now married to the most wonderful, caring, loving, respectful, sweet person on the planet, 31 male. I'm excited to have a future with instead of being full of dread. We've been together for 5 years and married for a few months, and I'm really happy that post feels like it was written by a different person in a different lifetime. Life feels so much lighter than it used to. There's no other point to this post except maybe to comment that manipulation is one hell of a drug. So of course someone says, "That's so nice to hear. How did you get out?" OP says, "I would have loved to say that I wised up and did it myself, lol. But obviously I was in very deep and it took him breaking it off because it just reached ungodly levels of misery and resentment. I guess I will never know if I would have come to the same conclusion myself, but I'd really hope so. I tried to have compassion for my past self and remind myself that my view of relationships had been really warped at the time and all judgment was just so cloudy." Commenter says to OP, "Now that you have more perspective, you understand what it was that made you love him so deeply in spite of everything." OP says, "I think I can attribute a lot to low self-esteem. I sort of put him on this pedestal of smarter than me and better than me in all aspects from the start. So when things started to fall apart, in my mind it was obviously because of something I was doing, not him. After so many times of him cheating and making excuses for him, I started to feel a lot of shame. Because I knew deep down I was being foolish, which made me defensive of the relationship. Like when my friends would confront me about it, in my head I would just be like, they don't get it, they're not in this relationship so they don't understand. It was easier to hold the mirror up to others than to myself, so I would just dig my heels in. It was always, I just need to change something about myself for this to work. But it will work. Which I think is evident in my original post. So, low self-esteem plus shame just kind of feeding each other in that cycle. It's my best guess." Commenter replies to that saying, "Makes sense. Thank you so much for replying. I understand it must not be easy. Just one more question. Would you say that your feeling of love for him during the good times was stronger than the love you feel for your current more stable partner?" Asking this because this reply to my original question to you made me question if this contrast between the good times and the bad times makes it even harder to leave. OP replies saying, "I mean, I would in some ways compare it to an unhealthy addiction, but the highs weren't indicative of love. The highs were high because I became dependent on the attention that this one individual gives me. My sense of self-worth was essentially tied to whether we're on again or off again. They also aren't highs on their own. It's only in contrast of very low lows and not thinking you deserve better. So when you're stuck in it all, you can look forward to are the good times. Like if you're getting hit by waves. A moment in between waves where you catch your breath is relief, but you wouldn't trade that feeling for safety on land." And one more reply to a removed comment says, "For real lol. Reading the original post again for the first time gave me some whiplash. Here I was enjoying my drama-free life and now this 22-year-old version of me assaults me with all this chaos. It's been cathartic though, especially with all the supportive comments. Thank you for your kind words." And I'm just so happy for OP in this situation that we're eventually out of that relationship and did find themselves. The thought process and OP looking back on themselves all that time ago, I found really interesting to see. And I like hearing about people's thought processes when they're going through these particular things, because like for anyone else like myself sat here behind the microphone, you guys as well, I imagine, could see that that relationship was absolutely awful and OP was better off out of it, but they kept convincing themselves with different ways, different excuses, and it's just not always that easy, is it? But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.